Hello and welcome to my channel. Back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. So today we're going to make a railroad quilt block, which actually is very similar to Jacob's ladder. In fact, it has all the same pieces. So we're going to make 4 half square triangles and 5 4 patches. So for the half square triangles, and I cut mine kind of big. Like I said, I like to have some to work with. I cut 2 squares, 2 of each color. I cut mine, I think I cut them 5.5 by 5.5, but you really could do 5. I just like to have extra to work with in case I mess up. I'm still in the new phase. I'd rather have a little extra. Plus I'm stuffing my pillow, so I don't really waste it. So what I did here is I took my ruler and I laid this 1/4 inch line right there on the corners, and I drew a line down, and then I flipped it around and did the same thing, and then I sewed on each of those lines. And I did this to 2 sets of them. I already finished one, trimmed it up, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's first iron this open. Again, I know my thread is red. I'm just trying to use up some thread that I've had for a long time. All right, so they're open. We're just going to trim them down to 4.5. And to do that, I'm just going to show you one because I've done it many times. If you're a fan of mine, you've seen it happen. I'm going to lay the diagonal line, and I'm going to make it as close to the edge up here as possible. And then I'm just going to trim off the shreds. They'll go in my pillow stuffing bucket. Spin it around, and now I'm doing it at 4.5. So now I'm going to line up the 4.5 mark and then the diagonal, and that should put these 2 lines right into place. And I have a lot of extra here, I know this, but actually these are pretty big pieces, and I'm going to take these and put them in for my crumb quilt because they'll make perfectly good strips on that quilt. So I'll do the other one off camera. Now for the 4 patch, I took strips and I sewed them together, 2.5 inch strips, and I sewed them together. I had to do 2 separate sets because I use fat quarters mostly. So I've sewn them together, and I'm going to cut out 2.5 inch pieces. Well, first, I already did this, but I laid it down here, and I lined up this line here with the stitch line, and I cut off the side, so I made sure that was a smooth, straight side. Now then I flipped it around, and I lined up that one again, that one and the 2.5 down this way. And then I just cut it off, and I kept going, and I would cut another one, but I don't need another one. So for that, I took 2 of them. You lay them opposite, and you pin them together. Thereafter, you nest those seams. Well, I pin them together. If you're comfortable not pinning it, don't pin it. You don't have to do exactly what I do. Try different things and figure out what works for you. So I'm going to sew a stitch down that, and I'll be right back. Okay, that's done. Now we're just going to press it open. Corners line up pretty good. I'm pretty good at 4 patches, you guys. So I'm going to trim this just to make sure it is the right size. So I want it to be 4.5. So I'm going to take this 2.25 dot right there. I don't know if you can see that at all, but it's right there. And I'm going to line that up on this point right here. And then I'm going to line up the lines. Make sure the horizontal one matches up and the vertical one. Now, if your point is not right in the middle, those are not going to be exact, which is fine. Just try to line it up as best you can. And there really shouldn't be much to trim off this at all. See, I just kind of got shreds. I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing. Now, this one, I line up the 2.25, but I also line up the 4 down here on the bottom, and then all the other lines. And you should, like I said, just shreds. It shouldn't be much at all. Okay, so now you should have 5 of those and 4 of these. Again, these started out as, I had 2 green and 2 brown 5.5-inch squares. This one was 2 sets of strips, 2 strips of green that were 2.5 by the length of my fabric, and 2 strips of brown that were the length of my fabric. And I just sewed them together and cut them into 2.5-inch sections, and then I sewed them together. So now we're going to lay out the block. And again, it is very much like Jacob's ladder. So you're going to lay it out almost exactly. Let me move my iron so I don't burn anything. So you're going to lay it out with your browns, whatever color you use. My railroad is going to be brown, so you're going to make sure they go all the way down. And then this, the brown is going to be facing the outside. I guess I laid it out wrong. I guess my green was my railroad, but I'm going to spin it around, which isn't hard. You just spin them all. So then your greens will be your 4 corners, and that's actually how I want mine to look. So now we're going to just sew our rows together. These two, and these 2, and I'll be right back then to show you the next step. Sewn them all together. So now we are going to just iron them. And I'm ironing the top ones to the outside. And the middle one will go, no, I'm ironing the top ones to the inside, and the middle one will go to the outside. I'm so sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice today. It's a little rough. All right, so now we'll lay it out. A couple more stitches and we'll be done. So then you just lay it back together, and I want my brown to go inside. So notice how I had that laying wrong and I had to turn it. This is when you would want to check your pattern again to make sure it's laying the way you want it. And it is. So now I'm gonna pin these. They should fit right into each other. Ouch. Pins are sharp, people. Sometimes they hurt. All right, and I'm just gonna fold that up and then pin this one. So actually, I really like this one. It's really nice to see how the same pieces from Jacob's Ladder, like you take the exact same pieces from a different block and just turn them a different way, and it makes a whole different pattern. I mean, it's not completely too different, but I like it. So, all right, I'm going to stitch those up and I'll be right back. All right, it's done. Let's see what we've got. I'm going to iron these just to the top and bottom just because that's the way it's laying. And there you have it. Most of my points lined up. This one's a little off, which is why I have a little extra over here. But there it is. It's called the Railroad. Let me see if I can... So here's Jacob's Ladder, and there's the Railroad. So there really is not much difference in it at all, just the placement of the corner blocks, really. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you even make the block, and if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.